In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about the back pain triggers that no one tends to think of, or no one tends to take notice of or understand that they are a trigger altogether. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to kind of go through the ones that I talk about mostly, that most people will have an understanding of if they've listened to anything that I've said, or tutorials that I've put out there. And then we're going to look at the ones that aren't so obvious, and the ones that people sort of miss most of the time and wonder why their back pain keeps coming back. If you are struggling with lower back pain, you do need some help, maybe something that I'm about to talk about in this tutorial resonates with you, then please do click down in the link below. You'll go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain online consultation and coaching. There is a face-to-face version if you live in the UK as well, where you can come and see me in the gym. I'll also put that link in the description. So please do click that, fill out the questionnaires. They'll come through to me, and then we'll get you in the process of getting booked in, and we'll go through the consultation and get you on the road to recovery. So the triggers that people tend to know of and maybe understand a little bit more. So we've got the spine postures. So you may understand that you've got a flexion intolerant spine. Your spine doesn't like to be in a flex position, and when it is, it triggers and the pain is aggravated, and it comes back. You've then got extension intolerant, you've got load intolerant, you've got compression intolerant, so on and so forth. So you've got all these different postures of the spine or loads on the spine that can trigger your back pain. Then you've got possibly a specific tissue. So you've got a disc, which would come along with a flexion intolerant. You've got a nerve, which again would come along possibly with a flexion intolerant, but there are also other conditions of the spine that would trigger the nerve. You've then got joints, so you've got the little facet joints in the spine. So again, that can be triggered, but that can be triggered again a number of different ways. If we can understand the spine postures, we can start to understand the tissues. But again, if we already know the tissues, we can start to understand the spine postures. So again, it sort of works both ways. Then you've got range of movement, and not necessarily spine range of movement, but more so hip range of movement. Spine range of movement can play its part, and it's a useful thing to understand. But again, it has to be viewed in a wider context of the individual and various other, along with all of these different types of triggers. So we've got range of movement. Again, it could be large range of movement, so it could be one end of the spectrum, and it could be very limited range of movement, which is the other end of the spectrum. So again, if we're at sort of the extreme ends of those, then that could be a problem, and it could be aggravating and triggering the lower back. But also, we have to understand we've then got joint stability. So is it the spine stability? Is it the hip stability? Is it both? So we have to understand that. And then we've got specific exercise. So it might be a deadlift. It triggers your back pain. It could be a squat triggers your back pain. But again, if it's a specific exercise, it's probably going to be the spine posture. But there could be some other things which I'll explain soon. And then finally, it's too little exercise. So people that just aren't doing the exercise, they just haven't got the capacity or the integrity to hold their body in certain postures for a period of time, and that causes the problem. So these are the ones that people tend to know about. So people will come to me with this one: I need core strength, I need core stability, whatever it might be. That would be something too little. I sit too much, my job is sedentary, so on and so forth. So that could play a part. So we've got all of these different types of triggers here. And there's one which we're going to talk about, or there's a couple that we're going to talk about next, which people don't tend to see as a trigger. They tend to see it as a solution to lower back pain. So what we're going to do is go straight through and talk about that. And the ones that people tend to not know about, or not know as much about, or possibly think is a solution but isn't necessarily a solution, if we start with specific exercise. So there are exercises out there that are said to be helpful for lower back pain. Now, those same exercises could be a hindrance for lower back pain. Two of them being a deadlift. Now, a deadlift is essentially an essential movement. People have to bend down and lift things up. So a deadlift is useful. But in the initial stages, it may be a problem. So we have to remove that and then build it back in. Another one is back extensions. Again, it's promoted by a lot of people to be used, and it doesn't have, but it's said to have good effects, activating muscles, making them stronger, so on and so forth. But if you've watched anything that I've done previously on back extensions or read anything that I've done previously on back extensions, you'll understand that there are problems with that. So it could be a specific exercise. It could also be, if we go back to the tissues, it could be what's called muscle trigger point. Now, if I do a very simplified version of the hip, which looks something like that, then you've got the femur coming off it. You've got a muscle that basically goes all the way around here. Now, there are more, but I'll just use this for the purposes of explanation. But they've got trigger points across here. And a trigger point is essentially, it's an active muscle knot that refers pain. If it's an inactive muscle knot, it's just a muscle knot in a muscle. It doesn't refer pain. But a trigger point is an active one, and it refers pain. Now, these 3 trigger points in the glute medius, there are more, as I've mentioned, that send pain in different places. But these 3 trigger points can send either pain down the leg towards the hamstring. It could send it further down to the ankle and into the foot. Or it could go up into the sort of the center of the lower back and the buttock as well. So you can start to see that is essentially sciatica, because you've got pain going down the back of the leg. So we have to differentiate, is it sciatica? So is it tension in the nerve? Is it the nerve being irritated by the disc? Is it the nerve being irritated by the vertebra? Or is it simply just a muscle trigger point? That's what the online consultation starts to do. It starts to look at these different things that it could be and start to point you in the direction of where it could be coming from. So we have to look at them all to then start understanding what direction does it want us to go and investigate, and where does it want us to point. So we have to build this up. So we have to understand that it could be muscle trigger point, could be a specific exercise. And the final one, which is too much exercise, because again, exercise is seen as a solution. Well, I need to keep moving. Exercise is said to be a good thing, so I need to keep doing it. But if we're doing too much of it, then it can be a problem. So again, in the online consultation, there's a whole questionnaire on that. How much are you doing? How often are you doing it? What intensity are you doing it? So on and so forth. So again, what it starts to do, when you put that in the mix of the spine postures, the hip range of movement, the joint stability, the trigger points, and the too little or too much exercise, when you start to put that whole picture together, it will start to tell you where your pain's coming from. So when people fill that out, it comes through to me. I then read it. I'm then looking at that. Right, okay, we need to investigate this further. We need to investigate that further. So what I then go about doing is during the consultation is exploring those avenues a little bit more. So what we're essentially doing is we're starting out with a broad perspective and then gradually narrowing in and understanding, right, it could be coming from these 2 places. So then in the online coaching, we can manipulate that and say, right, I think it's coming from here. Let's try this. After 1 week, does the pain reduce? You email me back, yes it does, no it doesn't. Or yes, it's starting to. So in the second week, we adapt, we change. Okay, let's try this. Is it then taking it on further? Yes, it is. So we're starting to wind down the pain. So what we're starting to do is we're starting to overcome the lower back pain logically just by manipulating different variables on the triggers. So we're reducing those triggers, reducing the lower back pain. So if we take someone who does 5 days a week for an hour, what does this look like in practice? So they do 5 hours a week of exercise. Now, I won't bring in more variables because you can bring intensity into it as well, but I'm not going to worry about that for the minute. But if we take that and say, well, okay, instead of doing 5 hours a week, let's just take it down to 3 hours a week. So we do 3 1-hour sessions. Now, does the pain reduce just from doing 3 hours? Could it then go to 45 minutes? So we're then doing whatever that is, an hour, hour and a half, 2.25 hours. Does that wind it down a little bit more? So we're then starting to understand, yes, it is too much exercise. So I'm not just saying to you, you need to do less exercise, or I'm saying to you, you need to do more exercise. There's a reason for it. Or I'm not just saying you need to stop doing that exercise, or you need to stop doing this exercise, or start doing that exercise over this exercise. There's a logic behind it. There's a reasoning behind it, because your body is telling me what the problem is. All I'm trying to do is find a solution that your body responds to in a positive way, because then essentially your body's telling me what the solution is, and it's then just a case of working with that. So it's very much understanding all of that and how it's all put together. And that's exactly what the online consultation and coaching does. So if you want to find out more about the online consultation and coaching, click the link below. You'll go through. There are now 3 questionnaires based on all these different variables. So you fill out the questionnaires. Again, it comes through to me. I start looking at all these different variables, and then I start building a plan. And then when we get together for the consultation, I then start talking to you about the direction that we need to go in and the program that we're going to do over the next week, or week 1 and week 2 of the online coaching. If you then need more coaching after that, or would like more coaching after that, then we can go about doing that and setting that up after the initial 2 weeks. If you've enjoyed this content, you found it useful, possibly you've learned something, stick what you've learned in the comment section below, and ask any questions in the comment section below as well, and I'll do my best to answer them as best I can with the means that I have with just responding to the comment. Hit the like button, it will help the video get promoted within the algorithm, and hit the subscribe button if you want to learn more about lower back pain, core strength, stability, posture, so on and so forth. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.